Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer, so let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
So you finished your stint in Chicago, you go to New York.
Yeah.
Right? Now,
well, I didn't go to New York. I went to L.A. I went to L.A. and I stayed.
Right. You went right to L.A.
I stayed and I committed television for 20 years.
You met Florence?
Well, after the Manhattan Transfer, when I was getting all these fabulous reviews, and they were saying, "Oh, you're hip. You're so hip. You're very hip. You're too hip," because it's Mother's Brothers. You're too hip.
Right.
You're just too hip. And so I knew Florence, and so I went to Florence and I said, "Florence, I'm too hip." And she said, "I know how you feel."
I loved her
because she had come from Broadway, you know, and so she had to really damp it down for television. And she said, "Here's what you do: write the Brady Bunch. No one will ever say you're too hip again." You can just emphasize your range.
Right.
And so the Brady Bunch at that point was dormant.
Right.
But what happened was the same guy who thought the Transfer would be a good host for a show thought the Brady Bunch would be a good host. Well, actually, he thought the Partridge Family, because they already were singing and dancing. And the Brady Bunch were too, but nobody noticed it.
Right.
But he said, let's do it with the Brady Bunch. So they did a show called the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
I remember that!
Which I wrote.
Oh my God!
And
wait, did Jan show up for that one?
No, we had fake Jan.
Yeah, fake Jan.
Eve Plum was Jan, and she had done a TV movie where she got a 40 share, which means 40% of all the sets. So she wasn't going back to being Jan.
Right.
She was launching her dramatic career.
Right.
And so we had to get a new Jan. And I remember going to the final auditions for fake Jan. There was
fake Jan.
A girl named Jerry Reichel who got the part. And the other girl, whose name I think was Kathy Buckley, not Kathy Buckley, the comic.
Right.
Kathy Buckley, a singer-dancer, who, after she didn't get fake Jan, quit the business.
No way.
Married Conrad Hilton's son.
No.
And had Paris Hilton, Nikki Hilton, and Conrad.
Way. Yeah. You created Paris Hilton.
Kathy Hilton.
You are the fucking sperm donor.
Right. And when the Brady Bunch, many years later, the Brady Bunch movies came out, which were like parodies of the Brady Bunch with Shelley Long. I got a call. This is Kathy Hilton. They began showing the old Brady Bunch Variety Hour on Nickelodeon, on Nick at Night. And people started calling me and said, "This is Kathy Hilton. I just want to thank you for helping me dodge a bullet."
She did not.
Yes. She said, "I was the other girl who would have been fake Jan." And I'm watching this show now, and I'm realizing, because she said she'd seen me perform, and I tell stories about the Brady Bunch. She said, "Everything you said was true, and I'm sort of sorry I wasn't there, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad I wasn't there."
That's cute. Oh, my God, I love that. That's the best story ever.
And then I used to get, I used to put Robert Reed, the father. We could never, I put him in drag as much as I could, because that was always
I talked a lot about him, with Florence, about Robert, and she said she knew during the pilot when they kept annoying him and saying, "Kiss her with more passion." Meanwhile, and she finally took the director aside and said,
"Ain't gonna happen.
Ain't happening. Leave him alone."
Though.
And
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
All right, wait. So, and he was a very serious actor who hated this job.
Right. Yeah.
So, look, we're pre-AIDS crisis. We're in the 70s. Yeah. What was it like? You never hid your homosexuality.
I never hid it, because, it was part of my personality, and I was in in a business that and in a part of the business that encouraged eccentricity and flamboyance,
right.
and
your mother didn't care. When did you tell your mother?
I told them when I was drafted. I said I'm going to check
for Vietnam.
For Vietnam,
yeah.
I said I'm going to check the box, and that checking the box meant there was a box. There was a box on when you were inducted, when you went down to for your physical, that said I am a practicing homosexual. And of course I checked the box, and then they sent you right to the shrink, and the shrink said, "Are you a practicing homosexual?" And I said, "No, I've got it down."
That's awesome. I love it.
Right, and he looked, and he thought. Oh, you're making a joke. And I said, no, really, I am. And he said, you know that this will follow you. This will go on your record, which used to be chilling words.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, as I had said to my parents before I went down, I said, I don't think I ever want to work with anybody who won't hire me because of this. And I'm certainly not going to do anything that would require a security clearance with the government. That was not my bent.
You didn't grow up religious. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was not. We were Jewish, but we were conservative Jews, and it wasn't. No, we weren't fundamentalists, which would be called Orthodox.
As you know, the Jews are pretty damn good.
Geez, this is why I wanted to be a Jew my whole life. I'm like, why couldn't we be Jewish?
The Jews are good, except for the Orthodox, because they're Orthodox.
The modern Orthodox are okay.
Well, the younger ones, fundamentalists of every religion
are
the
fucking
same.
mental,
and
OCD, and don't want to think. They just want someone to think for them and tell them how to think and what's right and wrong. So where do you think you got that strength? I mean, like, at that time, you're saying, I don't fucking care, put it on my record. I mean, like, that was an anomaly. I mean, no one did that.
I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, and I think I also...
Good for you!
I got real strong support from my parents, from my father, and from my mother. I mean, I don't know... I never talked to my father about how he really felt about it, but I talked to my mother about it, and she said, but to tell you the truth, it took us a little by surprise because you were always so interested in girls, and our real fear was you were going to take off with Myra Greenberg and elope, and that was because I really did. I really was. A practicing bisexual. And I had that down pretty well too, but it was the 60s and it was different. It wasn't as exotic as it is now. But I always loved girls. I was not repelled by women. I had sex with women. And I just, at a certain point, I was in love with several different women, and I realized that they deserved better than somebody who was going to go cruise the Greyhound station.
Right.
And so I made a choice to be authentic. When they say gay is a choice, in my case, the choice was to be my real self.
Right.
And that was to be gay.
Right.
But it was always there. I mean. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And people tell me, "Oh, I'm bisexual." And when they're over 25, I kind of, look over my glasses, like, "When was the last time you fucked a girl?" Prom,
right?
You're a grown up now.
I never felt bi.
Like Dennis Miller said, "Find a hole."
Yeah.
Pick a hole, goddammit.
I never felt bi either, but it just feels a little bit limiting to. I think that's why people maybe keep it open. It feels like you're making a decision that's blocking something out.
I also think that, I think it's also something that they talk and don't necessarily walk. They're leaving an option open for themselves. I used to be very, very harsh about it, but now I think whatever makes you happy.
All right. Barbra Streisand asked you to write for her.
Yeah.
Years and years and years ago, and. You told her to go fuck herself.
No.
You said no because she was.
I'd written for some benefits for her, and then she was coming out of retirement. She was going to put this act together. This was like in the 80s, and she asked me to write for her, and I said I'd be thrilled. And then they made a very lowball offer, and. She had just had an auction of her furniture from one house that she was getting rid of and building another. And she said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I said, "Sell a lamp." I wasn't asking for much. And she called Robin Williams, and she asked him to write for her. And he said, "No, you should get Vilanch." And he said, "He's too expensive."
No way.
And Robin said, "Are you nuts?" Anyway, Robin finally said, he called me and he said, she really wanted me to write for her, and Robin said, I can't. Everything I write is blue. You can't do anything I'd write. So actually, she got Elaine Boozler, who's a wonderful writer
I love
and
Elaine.
funny. And Elaine has a great story about it, which
good.
is her tale to tell.
She's doing the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good. So I'll ask her about it because it's her tale to tell. But I told this story in a documentary about me in 1999.
Yes.
And Barbara took incredible umbrage because the picture opened and the story got picked up by Page Six, and there was a lot of she'd gotten a lot of bad PR that week, mostly having to do with cheapness.
Right.
And so I was the heavy because she couldn't be mad at the Shaker Society who claimed that she stiffed them on furniture, and she couldn't be mad at somebody else who hedge fund people.
Right.
So she could be mad at me. So I became persona non grata, and for a long time, and then of course that just made it bigger because then I would get people who hadn't given a shit suddenly were calling and saying, well, what's the story that she denies all of it? And it was like festering.
Did you make up?
Bigger. Eventually, we made up. We finally made up. There was a benefit for Al Gore. That I guess must be about 15 years ago now. Well, whatever. And or Hillary, or a benefit for somebody. And I was writing. Whoopi was hosting it, and I was writing Whoopi's stuff with her. And Barbara was going to be on the show. And so her manager of forever, Marty Ehrlichman, called and said, "Would you write some stuff for her? She's sorry, and we're good." And of course, I never expected to hear from her.
Right.
But I said that was her way of saying, first it's a benefits. I can't ask for money.
Right.
But it was her way of saying, okay, it's all water under the bridge now. And
she had her people apologize.
I was some.
She. Backstage at the Academy Awards, she came over and she kind of squeezed my hand, and it was with a look, and it was kind of like, whatever you need to do, I am fine with Barbra Streisand.
Right,
sure, yeah.
I was in Palm Springs, and I met someone who was her cook for a while, her chef. Mm-hmm. And there were some letters. He had a whole thing of notes left by her that were... so psychotic.
Well, yeah. Well,
I mean, I want this much cheese on my cracker and this kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, she has a mental illness.
And then John Tolan's wrote that.
You don't say that about Barbra Streisand.
Why not?
John Tolan's wrote that.
Don't we try to demystify mental illness
play,
on the show?
Oh, yeah.
Byron Seller about... he fictionalized her, but he probably got her pretty accurately. She's
that's a great show.
Comes from insecurity, and and who knows? She's many great artists are filled with Nishikas.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So
may I just really quick while we're on this topic, there's a really great Inside the Actors Studio with Barbra Streisand, and you really see who she is. Under her mental illness and with it and everything, but it's so cute and it's so wonderful, and she is really wonderful. Yeah, I'm not talking shit.
Okay, were you there for the Barry Manilow Bette Midler fight?
Which one?
The one that
they've had, they've many battles. It's Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
There was a big one, was there not?
The most recent one.
Yes.
I wasn't there, but I was there.
So what can you speak of it?
Not really.
Okay.
It's just he thinks that she did something on a record and that he told her not to do, and it was the last straw. That was why it became big, because he just decided he'd had enough. He adores her and has always adored her, and it's always him. He's come back to her. To work and stuff, and she's
because that would be an amazing.
She's
concert.
Crazy about him, and it had nothing to do with him. It had to do with a work thing, that they were accusing each other of stuff, and it was. But mostly, I think Barry just had enough. He just said, I'm too old, and I don't want to go through any more of this.
Yeah,
and
he's so
she's
fucking
very
talented.
She's very sorry about it. She actually went on TV and talked about it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because that's how much she would like to, to rebuild that bridge.
Now, you knew my favorite who I wish I could have the career of, Bea Arthur.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
What was she like?
she was pretty astounding. She was a great friend to her friends.
Right.
I mean, if you hit it off with her, she was in your corner.
Right.
She'd come to see me in the most obscure things. I did an equity waiver musical in West Hollywood. She was there.
Right.
I mean, she came to see whenever I did a club thing. She was there. The Golden Girls was a gift for these women at this age.
Of course,
it was not supposed to happen that way.
Right.
TV was young and they were over the hill, and this surprise thing happened, and it made them all very wealthy.
Right.
And when people
was she wealthy prior?
She was wealthy prior because she had Maude. She made a lot of money.
Oh my
off
God,
of
the
Maude.
best show ever.
But this made her.
I just asked. I asked them to check to see if they would do a remake of Maude.
Yeah.
Because I really want to be in it.
Yes.
Right.
And they said no, but they're doing some readings of old Maude, and maybe they would consider me. But I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, that was
it was intense. They're bringing so many things back. I think partially because they are looking at the ratings and realizing that the people who watch network television are now of the age where these are things that resonate with them from their youth,
and they want to know these people were part of your growing up, like your family,
and they're hoping that there'll be enough shit in Dynasty that will something will it's Empire. Dynasty was the original Empire. They're hoping some of the glitter from Empire will fall off onto it and make this reboot of it something that millennials will watch, in addition to something that people who watch the original Dynasty will watch.
I wish they could bring back an old president too from the 90s. That would be good.
Oh, how about from the 1860s?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Lincoln. All right, so B. Arthur.
So she was the greatest. The thing about what happened, she got very rich, and they wanted to make sure that they didn't like shit in the golden pot.
Right.
And so they were. And they were also, everything had to be even between them because that was the dynamic of the show. And
did they all get along?
All became so. Everybody got along except Bea decided she was mad at Betty, and nobody ever knew quite why.
Betty White?
At Betty White, but it just kind of could be that Bea was the biggest star when they made the deal,
right?
And it elevated Betty, who had a bunch of flops, but so Bea had a bunch of. I don't know exactly what it was,
right?
And but there was just a kind of intensity about it.
Now, okay, sorry.
But and the show, the show became kind of a formulaic thing. It was very funny, but they had to service everybody, so it was. Dumb joke, slut joke, ugly joke, old joke.
Right.
And they were volleying back and forth at each other. And they continued to do really well. And then finally it was, they stopped.
Right.
But, and during the course of that, Bea, who always enjoyed a cocktail, began enjoying them more.
Right.
And she wouldn't drink when she was working, and she would drink at dinner. So dinner was at 5.
Right.
And you would go over there, and she'd be standing in the doorway waiting for you with the martini shaker, waiting for you to come in. And it was pretty good, but she would drink a lot, and around 8:30 things would quietly spiral.
Wow. How old was she when she died?
I don't know.
I'll look it up. Betty White says here she talked about why B. Arthur was mad at her in her book, and she said B had a reserve. She was not that fond of me. She found me a pain in the neck sometimes. It was my positive attitude that made B mad sometimes. She was like too.
Well, that's true.
Oh God, I am B. Arthur.
You
I am B. Arthur.
Totally.
I've worked with Betty a lot, and I've never found her to be all that goody two shoes. But that is the reputation she has. But
I love her.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
I've always. She's a lot like Bea in that regard.
Right.
She's in your corner.
What do you think? You work constant. You are, as the movie says, get Bruce. That's what everyone says, get Bruce.
2009, by the way, B. Arthur died.
Yeah,
really?
How old?
Wow. She was.
That was a bad one for me.
Let's see. She was born in 1922.
Oh, like my mother. She's was my mother's age. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, she was. Mine was 1919.
Yeah.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
All right, so What do you think was the thing that made you get Bruce? Like, what was the thing in your career that made everyone was like, get Bruce Vilanch, get Bruce Vilanch?
For 20 years, I was behind the scenes, and I would step out, I would act in one thing or another, and I would perform, I would do my act.
Right.
But it was probably writing all those Oscar shows.
Right.
I mean, I had written about 10 of them in a row. When they approached me about the movie. And as the movie was happening, Hollywood Squares happened.
Right.
So suddenly I was on television every night.
Right.
And there was a movie about me.
Right.
And so that kind of
It was
made
like the perfect storm.
It was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And as a result, they came to me and asked me if I would audition for Hairspray.
Right.
And to replace Harvey when he left. And
Harvey.
and I did, and I got it. And for 2 years, I did that on the road and on Broadway.
And you loved it.
It was the greatest.
Yeah.
My favorite thing ever. It was
so. You're doing Hollywood. Now, I just want to know your mother.
Yes.
You're this now. Everyone recognizes you.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, and you bring your mother with you. Yeah, and you bring your mother. And she loved it, right?
Yeah. Oh, she did. She went crazy. We had a Mother's Day show every year on Hollywood Squares, and I would bring her on. I'd write her material.
Oh,
I would give her a little. She had fabulous timing. She had fabulous, but I would give her a little, and she would slide right in with it. She just knew.
What was Paul Lynde like?
Look those up on YouTube. Those Hollywood Squares with Bruce's mom.
Yeah.
Paul was on the Donnie Marie show,
right?
And he was also doing Hollywood Squares,
right?
And so
gay.
When we were we'd finish a day at Donnie and Marie, he said, "Come with me to Squares. I haven't got shit." And we'd sit in the car and go over the questions because that was how they did it, and so you could come up with jokes. And we'd come up with jokes, and it was towards the end of the NBC Hollywood Squares because it had been on 14 years, and this was the end of it when he was in the center square.
Right.
And he was miserable and without a drink. He would have a drink, and he would be the funniest person you ever knew.
Damn.
Then he would have a second drink,
and then he would
turn into Reinhard Heydrich. I mean,
not Jewish.
Not Jewish. He would turn into somebody from the Nazi high command.
Right.
He was horrible to everybody and mean and just awful. And people knew to avoid him. And when they were doing Squares, they would know to give him one drink, not to give him two drinks.
Right.
Because
I did Squares when you were there. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I really appreciate that. And it was so interesting for me who grew up with these, shows.
Right.
And I was just starting to, have a career. And seeing that, backstage was just alcohol and food and alcohol. Right. And I'm thinking, I need every synapse in my brain. And you look back at, if you look at the Game Show Network and you watch, Match Game and all that, they're all fucking wasted.
Yeah, totally.
Because you don't care as much. And, I mean, what's to care about? I mean, it's a silly game.
It's silly.
And somebody will win and somebody will lose. And so much of it's based on hunch anyway.
Right.
Who was the woman? Oh, fuck. You know what? Match Game. She had the big glasses.
Brett
Summers.
Brett Summers, yeah.
Did you ever work with her?
No, I knew her socially, but I was never involved with Match Game. But I knew her. She was married to Jack Klugman.
Yeah.
Who was a Broadway star in The Odd Couple. And they were around town. They were part of a whole group of people who were theater people who were around on television.
What was it like being gay? I mean, not for you, but... Mm-hmm. You knew everyone who was gay.
I did.
Pretty much. And you were not in the closet, but so many were.
Uh-huh.
What was it like? I mean,
it was...
and to keep up the charade until,
right.
Rock Hudson.
There was that period after Stonewall before Rock Hudson where... people started coming out or being outed. Right. And so it became an issue. It had never been an issue before. Everybody was very courteous. We used to say professional homosexuals should respect the rights of homosexual professionals.
Right.
And because there were people who, wrote for Out magazine or whatever. Musto Signorelli. I mean, their job was covering homosexuality in the world. And there were people who were gay who were doing other things, like, being on talk shows.
Right.
So
did you ever feel like just come out? Just did you ever feel like
I did? But at the time it was. The times just were different. For example, with Barry Manilow, who's just come out.
Yeah,
now.
I wanted to ask you about that.
I mean, in the day, Barry couldn't come out because Barry sang songs about heartbreak.
Right.
He sang about love and tenderness.
And Mandy.
And they wanted to know who he was singing to.
Right.
So he had to actually invent somebody who he was singing to, a woman he was singing to. And that was the way it was done.
Right.
If he had been English, a few years later, he might have been able to come out because they're the ones who came out.
Mm-hmm. Did he want to?
And Boy George. No, he was terrified.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't a pioneer. I mean, he didn't get into this to be, and that's what happened. And also when Elton, who, although being British, Elton came out as bisexual.
Right.
And he was booted off 200 radio stations. Because in those days, the way the music business worked was if you had a station in Louisville, Kentucky, and Elton John was on the playlist, and Elton John announced he's bisexual, the pastor of the church of the guy who runs that station calls that guy and says, how can you play this sodomite?
Yep.
And Elton John disappears off the playlist.
Ridiculous.
And that was, and therefore he's, the same thing happened when Ellen came out on television.
Yeah, I did.
All the network, if you drove from Miami to Cincinnati, you would have trouble getting the Ellen DeGeneres sitcom on television.
Wow.
And so the bottom fell out of the ratings. And she told them that would happen.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you're a big hit. It won't happen. And she was right.
So
she knew.
Yeah. So in other words, you had to be prepared for that, and nobody was prepared for that because ultimately people who get in the show business to sing songs, very few of them are political pioneers. There's Joan Baez and a few other people, but. That's on a purely political level. That's not on a sexual level, which of course is fear-based.
Right. And that's all they go to.
Right.
I mean, they do that with trans people. It's all about what do you have down there? It's not about who you are.
We used to look at. There was an issue of People magazine, and Barry was on the cover, and also on the cover was Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Yeah.
And they were gay, but they sang "Shake Your Booty," and "Your Groove Thing," and all that stuff, and nobody asked them. Nobody cared because they weren't singing love songs. They were not romantic figures. They were party figures.
Right. Like the Village People.
Well, the Village People, but they were a gay trope.
Right.
I mean, they used all the stereotypes, and nobody asked them because they didn't have to ask them.
Right.
Now, this is hard for me to discuss because I feel very emotional when I talk about it, but the AIDS crisis was, I don't know, for some reason now it's really hits me, I guess because I'm older and I have kids and but it was horrible. And how was it in Hollywood? I mean, what was...
It was.
How did it? I mean, and also, what was your? Who died that you just were like, I mean, you've seen a lot of the,
a whole bunch of people at the beginning,
right?
Wow, I mean, Paul Jabara. I'm trying to think of who the early victims were, but there were many more in New York,
right?
Because there was a theory that it started here, and then it spread west, and of course, a lot of people were in show business, and so it affected a lot of people. And then, of course, the first thing is everybody was terrified; nobody knew what it was. So, but it was the gay cancer, and so gay people became a pariah,
right?
Yeah.
And
I remember,
right? You weren't supposed to, go near them. And I remember. It was a great joke saying, can you get AIDS from sitting on a toilet seat? Yes, but there has to be another guy sitting there already.
That's funny. I remember because I remember visiting people in the hospital, and it was like I made sure I touched them, like skin to skin, or kissed them or something, because it was, they were like quarantined. I mean, and when I walk by those condos they're building by St. Vincent's.
Yes, right. Where the hospital was.
It's like, how can you fucking live there? There's so many souls in that. All right.
It was rough, and it was rough to get to get anybody interested, to get money to spend.
Right.
I mean, the people who we started fundraising because that's all we could do.
Did you? I know, and also the lesbians and gays came together.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Did you ever work with Elizabeth Taylor?
Oh yeah, I worked on a lot of shows. After the first show we did was Commitment to Life, which after Rock Hudson. It started with Rock Hudson, and she got involved.
And how much do you hate Nancy Reagan for not helping him?
Always. I mean, perennially.
Yeah.
It's just perennial. I can't even watch the next voice you hear.
Right.
But I mean, Turner Classic had a festival, Nancy Davis Festival. I said, I think I'll switch.
I can't believe she couldn't help. She didn't help him. All right.
Well, Republican.
Right. So you worked with Elizabeth.
I worked with Elizabeth. We did the first Commitment to Life, which she chaired, and Betty Ford was the recipient, and the second one, Elizabeth was the recipient.
Right.
And then a whole bunch of things afterwards, because eventually she combined. Well, the two research charities she was involved with combined into AMFAR.
Right.
And she started her own foundation as a clearinghouse.
Right.
Because there were so many small charities that couldn't afford fundraising,
right?
Marketing and galas and that kind of stuff. So you would apply to her foundation,
right?
And she would distribute.
Did she hate Joan Rivers and what Joan did?
She didn't hate. She thought Joan Rivers was funny, but she got tired of Joan Rivers,
right.
and it finally became she just didn't want to be around Joan, and
right.
so if you were going to do a show and Joan was going to be on it, because Joan was one of the first fundraisers,
right.
also, Elizabeth would just as soon not be there.
And Joan on her daytime talk show put gay people and drag queens on, and
she did all of that. She was like the first. I mean, really, Nell Carter, whose
right.
brother was sick and died,
right.
Was one of the first, and Bet was one of the first, and but Joan really was the first one. I absolutely remember.
What was
because her hairdresser had gotten sick.
Right. What was the most shocking death to you?
Wow. God. Ryan White, maybe?
Oh, that was awful.
Yeah, I mean, because when a kid, or it could have been, there were these, there were show business people there, the Kushner twins.
Yeah.
Not the Jared.
Right.
Sam
What,
Kushner.
Elizabeth Glazer, that was a bad
that
one.
was, they were the people you didn't expect. I mean, at a certain point when somebody, who was flamboyantly gay presented themselves to you,
right.
you would go, well, this was, we know, well, you got it. I mean, it wasn't, from a blood transfusion.
Right.
I mean, it could have been, but it probably wasn't.
Have you ever said no to writing for someone?
Well, they don't ask. It's weird. The right wing doesn't ask me. The Republicans don't ask because they know I'd say no. They just look me up and they realize I'd say no. But I mean, I've said no to people.
You've turned down shit.
I've turned down shit, but not because, for money or it wasn't worth it or I was doing something else.
Right.
But it wasn't because, you're a hateful person.
Right. You have 2 reviews of the Oscars framed in your house.
I do. Yes.
One's from the New York Times and one's from the LA Times. And it's the same.
It's the same show.
Right.
And one is the New York Times loved it.
Right.
And the LA Times says, writing like this should be a capital offense. And I called the guy up and I said, what the fuck do you think you are, Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what a capital offense is?
No.
Somebody should be murdered for writing this show. How about a critic should be murdered? I said, what the fuck kind of thing is that?
I know. I hate. You know what else I hate?
About an Academy Award show.
Right. Go fuck yourself. One time I got a.
Man, you're disordered. And he really, I mean. He got very quiet and he said,
really?
Wow, I had no idea the language was that strong. I said, well, you're a fucking writer. You should, this is what we do for a living.
Right.
Let me write a letter to the LA Times with a little strong language. He never reviewed anything I ever did again after that. He stayed clear of me.
Nice.
Yeah.
My mother once called the New Jersey Star Ledger after they gave me a bad review for 25 Questions for a Jewish Mother. And at the time there was no email, so that or there was, I don't know. So there was a phone number. It was like contact me at blank. And she called up, and I'm at a photo shoot, and the the publicist comes over and is like, Judy, can I talk to you? I just got a call from the Star-Ledger. Apparently your mother called and he doesn't want to return her phone call. And your mother can't be calling. And I called my mother. I said, Ma, you can't call reviewers that give me a bad review. I can do whatever I want. They have their opinion and I have mine. And I had to listen to theirs. And and it was, and I just loved her for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Shoot it!
Go get him. Go get him, Tiger. I called when Hairspray opened in Baltimore. It was our first show because it was Baltimore.
Good morning.
I got a morning, Baltimore.
I got a weird review from the critic in the Baltimore Sun, and I called her. I mean, she wrote something like, he hasn't figured out how to do, I don't know, or this isn't, many things don't land, and I called her up and I said, I used to be a critic at the Chicago Tribune, and I read the review and it was very general, and I'd like to know, what do you think I should do?
Right.
What are these things I haven't figured out that you can help me with?
Right.
Good for you.
And what'd she say?
Well, no, that's your job. You're the actor.
Then don't fucking write it, asshole, you cunt.
Right. Well, then I said,
What
so
do
in
you
other
think
words,
of-
you have no specifics.
Right.
This is just your overall feeling about my performance.
Who are the critics that you, first of all, critics drive me up a wall, but who are the ones that you, I mean, I'm sure you don't say, I'm not going to this because of a critic said this, but who do you trust the most as far as critics are concerned?
The ones that you read all the time. I mean, I read Ben Brantley.
Yeah, me too.
And it's not even so much a question of trust. It's that you know what your taste is as put indexed with theirs.
Right.
So that they will give you some idea of whether it's something that you'll like.
Right.
Charles Isherwood, who was at the Times and who's now, I guess, blogging, he's really good. And
Frank Rich.
I always liked Frank. And Jesse Green. And there are Adam Feldman. There are a bunch of good ones in New York.
Right.
But I don't read them much. I mean, I do read them on Chris Jones from the Chicago Tribune is very good. On new stuff on Broadway to see if it's something I'm going to want to see, because I don't live here. I don't see everything.
Right.
So,
do you miss New York?
Yeah, well, I'm here a lot, so it's hard to miss it.
I mean, you seem so not L.A. to me.
I know,
because you're so Jersey, Jewy.
Well, sort of have that a kind of energy, but there's a lot of that in L.A.
Right.
It's just you have to find it.
Right.
I mean, when you were there, well, it's different.
I was there in the 90s.
Yes, the whole.
Yeah. Okay, now you have to
Although
go.
I understand that from Showtime, that was the golden age of comedy.
It's the 70s now.
Is that when they're doing it? The 70s?
I'm in that show.
You are?
I'm dying up here. I'm in episode 3.
Excellent.
It's kind of about me. My character.
With Melissa Leo as Mitzi?
Yes.
Wow.
But she doesn't say she's Mitzi.
Well.
She will not say that. Yeah. And I had her come to the club.
Yeah.
She'd never been to the club. She'd actually never been to a comedy club. So we ask our guests 2 questions, always.
Oh, yes.
First of all, which one should we do first?
The kill me now.
Okay. What pisses you off the most? Like, what fucking makes you want to fucking kill someone? Like, what really pisses you off?
I live in L.A. It's whoever is driving the car in front of me.
Right.
I just want them dead. I want them removed like the leftovers.
How do you sit in
the rapture to happen.
Yeah.
They and their car will just magically disappear.
I have that fantasy in LA.
But you don't ever
But then there'll be another car in front of that. So
you never get aggravated. You never get angry. I've never seen you angry.
No, I can get angry.
Have you seen him angry?
Incompetence. Yeah, my friend Craig has seen me angry. But just like, just when people don't think things through.
What's your anger? Do you just like, is it in it and then you're done?
I get.
Do you get like, because I get like,
I get very sarcastic and sardonic.
Same.
And, small-mouthed.
Right.
Ooh, that's the scariest.
And yet always with humor.
With humor. I had
signal me when
I have a T-shirt. Signal me when I reach cunt level.
I need that. How'd you get into the T-shirt thing?
Well, tits like these, you have to
Right.
show. It's rebellion. My mother always dressed me, and I hated it.
Right.
And I said, when I'm grown up on my own, I will wear whatever I want. And I'm still having a tantrum. And what happened was I started wearing T-shirts. Ironic T-shirts got funny in the 70s, and I began wearing those under shirts worn like a house coat.
Right.
That was my mother. And I moved to California. You could go anywhere in a T-shirt pretty much. And so it just kind of became my trademark.
I love it.
And I thought, this is my signature.
I wanted to wear jeans and T-shirts.
Much cheaper than,
every
Brooks Brothers was my signature.
It's ridiculous.
I love it too. Right. And if you want to dress up, just put a blazer on it.
That's right.
Boom, T-shirt.
Hey,
blazer.
Rachel Maddow!
Hey.
All right.
And skinny jeans.
Yeah. Now, we also ask, because we're very pro mental health on this show, we ask every guest. I think I know the answer. I'm sure I know the answer, but we ask everyone if they're on any sort of antidepressants. Have they ever been on antidepressants? I say no.
I was on.
No!
Sorry, but it was. It's so pussy. It's ridiculous.
What?
I had a detached retina.
Okay.
And
that's fucking painful.
It was, and I was kind of blind in one eye for a while.
Right.
I had the surgery, and then it was healing, and I was wearing an eye patch.
Right.
And the surgeon said, I think Prozac would help you get over this, because a lot of people freak out.
Right.
Because they don't know if it's going to take, and they don't know if how they're going to live with blind
one
in
eye.
one eye.
Yeah.
And so I took it, and it beveled off the edges.
It did.
And then
how long did you take it for?
About 6 months, and then I stopped.
And when you stopped, you had no.
No, I had nothing. I had nothing, and people kept saying to me, I had an assistant who was totally crazy. Kept saying, "Yeah, that's when we're like people go postal.
Yeah,
that's when they go and with a Gatling gun and they mow everybody down.
Right."
and I said, I just don't see that happening. I said, I'm just too fucking peaceful right now.
You are such, and you don't drink. Do you drink?
I drink.
Oh,
yeah,
good. Okay.
Sure,
do you smoke pot?
Yeah.
Yay! Yeah. I want to smoke pot with you.
I do all of it. Well, I eat a lot. I eat a lot, and
because I don't.
A lot of, and then there's the fellatio follies after that.
No, I'll leave for that.
I become very oral.
Right.
It's Ritz crackers or Big Black Dick. It doesn't matter. Big White Dick. It doesn't matter.
So
at all.
crackers or Big Black Dick.
I know.
See how artists are extreme.
Wait,
and you should see me at Safeway looking for the Big Black Dick on the shelf next to the Ritz crackers.
Hey.
I'm that stoned.
Wait, didn't you stay at a nudist place? Wait, we were working somewhere in Florida, and you stayed at a nude place.
I was staying at a nudist place. Oh, when we were playing Florida, I had stayed at Island House in Key West.
Right.
Which is clothing optional.
Right.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I love when they walk around naked.
I love walking around naked, too.
The thing of it is, Island House, which I'm happy to plug, is one place where, like, people who you want to see naked are walking around naked. Usually,
Is it all men?
Well, that's one reason for me.
Right.
But I mean, because they're all kind of like hot men.
Right.
It's usually, the guy who says, let's all get naked is the one person you don't really want to see.
Right.
And that's been my experience.
Right.
But so I had been staying there, but I had also performed at an actual nudist retreat.
Were you naked?
No, I wasn't naked. I wore a towel. I think I actually wore shorts and a T-shirt because I said I don't need this photo op. I really don't need this. But they also have. They give you little stickers,
right?
That
say
the red
6
one means
inches.
no photos, or
Oh, that's
and
good.
everybody respects it, and it's actually a very nice. They do it in the Poconos,
right?
Which makes me laugh. At a camp I went to, it was
Najiwa?
Akiba.
Oh, I went to Najiwa.
It was camp. It was a Jewish camp for years, and I went there once because it was too Jewish.
fucking hated it. They wrote on my bunk. They wrote Bigfoot slept here. After I left, I went back to get something, and I noticed they keyed in, and I was like, all right. I know you have to go, but do you think Trump's going to get impeached?
Well, the Republicans have to peel away from him more than they are, but they are beginning to.
Right.
So it's entirely possible, but they also have to find something genuinely impeachable. I mean, every day there's something new. I mean, today Flynn is revealing more stuff that could be the smoking gun.
Right.
So it's
and how gay is Pence? I mean, he is so gay.
How gay is he?
He's so. I mean, he's so adamant that it's a choice. That apparently he made that choice because anyone who is so fucking sure it's a choice has obviously made the choice.
I guess.
Well, has made the choice to not do it. He's made the choice to not be gay.
Right.
So for him, it's a choice,
right?
Even though it's not really, he still gets hard. When he sees...
you're annoying.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just looks like
you're on voice
he looks
probation.
like an action figure, an executive action figure.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a Pez dispenser.
He looks like a closeted homosexual.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah. God damn it, Bruce. I think that you are one of the greatest. I'm not kidding. You're like such a great human, and you're so fucking talented. And I just, I adore you. I adore you, and I'm so glad I got to know your mom.
Tall. We do the big and tall.
Yeah, we do the big and tall show.
Like
we have to do more big and tall shows.
Get that Hebrew on the phone.
And you're coming to P-Town this summer.
I heard that.
Yes.
I'm talking same place. That.
Yes, I got you in. Yeah.
Oh no.
I've got thank you for coming.
Certainly.
I love you.
Delighted.
All right. And as we always say, so long.
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.